Hi guys, welcome back to the Spurred On podcast. It's very much the morning after the night before of the Tottenham Hotspur 1, West Ham 2 Deja Vu Premier League game. I was actually hosting the We Are Tottenham TV watch-along during the game yesterday, and as a result got back at like 1 in the morning, absolutely knackered. But if you haven't seen it, please do go onto my page, YouTube, and the podcast. If you haven't listened or watched it, I posted up the instant match reaction video that I did with Ashmatic on We Are Tottenham TV last night. Give that a listen, because that gives you an idea of how I felt just after the game. Obviously, incredibly depressed, but maybe things have calmed down a little bit this morning. It is completely wild to me, I have to say, before I get onto the Newcastle match preview, which this video is, it's completely wild to me that we've lost 4 out of 5 games. We lost 3 home games on the spin, and yet I feel like we could and should have won all of those games. That's very new to me as a Tottenham fan. In all previous kind of iterations of times where we've lost a number of games in a row, it's never felt like we should have won those games. It's always felt like a result of, you know, the players aren't playing for the manager and they're not really working hard enough. That is not how I feel. It feels to me a lot like, and I'll get into this, but a lot like we're really suffering from the kind of fatigue of not having enough players fit. So even something as small as, you know, players who we didn't think would play a lot this season, so Mano Solomon, even Perisic, maybe even Ryan Sessegnon, just using players down the left as an example. The fact that we are not able to bring players like that on at 60 minutes or 70 minutes or when someone's got a knock means, as a result, something like last night happens where Son gets a kick in the back at the end and he's really struggling, and we have no replacement, and all these players are being overworked. So we've gone from a position where we were talking a lot about how the fact that having 1 game a week would really benefit us. That kind of benefit has totally been wiped out by the fact that we have just suffered from so many injuries and a couple of suspensions that everyone is having to play every single minute. It's an absolute blessing that we haven't got Europe this season, because we would be absolutely struggling on all fronts. But yeah, like I said, just a nightmare that we lost, obviously, but also just weird that it feels like we should have won all of those games. We could easily have 15 more points, basically, or 13 more points than we currently do. Anyway, like I said, please do go and watch that instant reaction, because it gives you an idea of how I felt at the time. Let's go on to the Newcastle match on Sunday. It's a real battle of the kind of injury-laden clubs. I know Man United have got a lot of injuries as well, and they're very up and down and struggling too. It's no surprise. We've said it before, it cannot be coincidence that there's all these VAR checks and there's the World Cup last winter, and players are just dropping like flies. Newcastle arguably have an even worse injury situation than we do. They're currently 7th on 26 points, 1 point behind us. We're in 5th on 27 points. They lost to Everton 3-0 last night. Everton obviously incredibly motivated by their financial fair play points deduction. But I think Newcastle would have gone and turned them over easily if they had all their players available. I'm going to run you through the injuries of their team. Sven Botman, Callum Wilson, Jacob Murphy, Dan Burn, Elliot Anderson, Willock, Longstaff, Barnes, Target and Manquillo. Tonali, of course, suspended because he enjoys betting and gambling far too much. So that is a huge, huge injury list. And some of those players absolutely key. I'd say Sven Botman and Dan Burn, actually. Some people might think it's weird for me to say that Dan Burn is absolutely key to them because he's 6'7" or something and a fullback, or been playing fullback for Eddie Howe's Newcastle. But he keeps it absolutely tight for them, and a lot of the time he'll play narrow as almost like a third centre-back to make them incredibly difficult to score against. So he is a big miss, and obviously Sven Botman at centre-half is incredibly good too. Rumours after last night's game against Everton that Jamal Lascelles might not be fit as well. He's obviously their captain who's come in for Botman at centre-half. He got a dead leg. It would surprise me if he didn't find a way to play, to be honest. But that's a rumour that's coming out this morning as well. Obviously, they are still full of danger men. Kieran Trippier, just since he went to Atletico Madrid, his defensive ability has gone up, I'd say, twofold. Diego Simeone there really kind of got him by the scruff of the neck and taught him how to defend better. The fact, when he was at Spurs, I think a lot of people, especially in his last season, when he was carrying an injury, were saying that he just wasn't quick enough to be an elite fullback. That is absolute bullshit and has been proven so. His defensive work is incredible, and he's still one of the great crossers of the last 20 years in English football. and his set-piece delivery and set-piece shooting for free kicks is unbelievable as well. So I see him as an extreme danger man, especially in terms of like one of those classic script games coming back to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. If we give away a free kick outside the box, I could definitely see him putting one in the top corner against us. Bruno Guimaraes, great player, playmaker, pulls the strings for them in midfield. Really fantastic player. We're going to have to get to grips with him in midfield. I imagine we'll try and bring Pat Matasar in there to get some more legs, because we can seem quite open on the transition at the moment. Although, to be honest, yesterday against West Ham, I didn't think they threatened us at all. We gave them both of their goals. I never felt in danger. To be honest, though, neither Vicario nor Fabianski had to make any great saves, I thought, in the game. We obviously scored our goal from a corner, and then we gave them the 2 goals. Kind of laughable, under 10 levels of defending. The first one, maybe I'm being unfair, the first one's so unlucky. He takes a pot shot, it deflects off Romero onto Davis, and then Bowen's just got a shot from 6 yards out. But the second one, unfortunately, Destiny Udogie, I love him. He's raw, he's 20, it's going to happen. But, you know, when it rains, it pours. For that pass back to happen against West Ham when we've 1-1 in a game we should absolutely be dominating and winning easily. And then actually I would say Vicario arguably made his first mistake by going out for it with his hands. I'm not sure what he was kind of thinking there, because it was a 50-50 that Bowen didn't want to be a part of. And I think if he'd just gone out with his feet to clear it, as he did so many times against Chelsea in that second half when we were down to 9 men, I think that goal would never have happened. But he went with his hands, so it would have been an indirect free kick anyway, as it was a pass back, had he not just palmed it straight out to Ward-Prowse, who had 2 attempts at it because he missed the first one hitting the post. So, I think that has to go down as maybe Vicario's first mistake, but him and Destiny have been amazing for us this season, so no huge shade from me on them. It's going to happen. Obviously, Sonny, as I mentioned, kick on the back at the end last night, did not look comfortable in the post-match interviews at all, and not just because he was so upset that we lost the game. So will he play? And if not, will Richarlison come in as the 9? He went up as the 9 yesterday when he came on. He had that gilt-edged chance. I have to say, I know a lot of people just don't rate him. I'm gutted for him. A lot of these chances that he's missing are just inches wide. And I don't know, I don't feel like he's like actively trying to put them right in the corner because the goalkeeper would have saved it otherwise. That's not the case. He just needed to get it on target, and it's just another great example of how much we're missing Harry Kane. I'm not going to say we didn't know how lucky we were, but it was just a given to us that Harry Kane would score those chances. It was a given to us that he would score 20 goals a season. And you take that 20 goals out of per season out of this Spurs squad, who finished 8th last season anyway, and who've lost all the players, including Maddison, who's really basically our creative linchpin. And we are struggling at the moment. Honestly, if we had Maddison in these games, we would be top of the league or second in the league. I'm absolutely sure of it. So, be interesting to see if Son plays. If not, whether Richarlison comes in. I guess Richarlison would come in as the 9 and Johnson would keep his place. I'll go into the team that I think will play later, but I think if Son can be fit, then I think Richarlison might come in for Johnson on the left. Anyway, I feel like a lot of teams now who come to Spurs will know, and are coming to Spurs, will know that if they can stay within a goal or drawing with us going into the second half, we work so hard and run so hard in the first 20 minutes that our tempo drops off, and that's when they're able to kind of get a foothold in the game and get more tempo and momentum in the game. West Ham did it. It was classic Moyes ball, and then they nicked a couple of goals. So Newcastle, I think, will set up the same way, except they'll be more dangerous on the transition because they've got players like Isak. They've got players like Anthony Gordon, who are playing incredibly well, incredibly quick, and Joe Linton as well, making runs from the midfield. So it's an incredibly dangerous game. I know they got beaten easily last night, but I don't know. I think this one is going to be tough. I've been predicting that we're going to win the last few games, maybe not the City game, but I'm not sure I can predict that one. Positives, I thought Romero looked amazing last night, not just because he scored a goal, but how much have we missed him on the ball. I think it made Basuma play better. He enabled Basuma to take up positions in more dangerous areas and still get the ball off Romero and play off the half turn. So that was really, really positive news. My team then for Sunday's game against Newcastle, I'm going to go Vicario, Pedro Porro, Destiny Udogie, Romero and Davis to keep his place. I think he gives us that balance with his left foot, and Ange sees that as really important. I think it will be Basuma. I think Pat Matasar will come back into midfield and Gio Lo Celso will stay in that kind of Maddison role. And then I'm going to say that Son is fit and say it'll be Deki, Kulusevski on the right. Richarlison will come in on the left, and we've got to hope that he provides some of those assists that he did earlier in the season, like that brilliant outside of the foot cross against Liverpool, and maybe even get on some chances at the back post and score some goals. And then Sonny up front. My prediction is that this game will be a draw. I actually kind of feel like after the last few games, both teams will be like, we cannot afford to lose this game. But as we've been talking about so much, Ange, I don't think will say to the team to sit back at all. He'll want us to go forward. But the key thing, as ever, and we're not doing it, when we go 1-0 up, if we go 1-0 up, got to get a second. Got to get a second so we can relax and make that opposition really come at us so then we can pick them off on the transition. We're playing well. It's important to retain positivity. If these kind of losses had been strung out over the past 15 games rather than come in just the last 5 games, I think we'd be feeling absolutely fine about it now. But it is a devastating period of bad form for us. We need a win, because I think we've got Forest away, a couple of away games coming up after this. I kind of almost feel like we'll be better suited to playing away at the moment if we can play in that attacking style, because teams will be forced to come at us a bit more. But I'm just going to go for a draw in this game, but I would love us to win. And guys, thank you so much for your support. As ever, if you're watching on YouTube, please do give me a follow or subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and vice versa. If you're listening on the podcast, please do come to youtube.com /at Barnaby Slater _ give us a subscribe there. As ever, try and stay positive. Come on, you Spurs.